In Germany.
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 It's a part of Germany. Okay.
Okay, it's 11:03. I kind of let the time slip away. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us, and to all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. So we're studying Swami Prabhavananda's book. It's a collection of his talks from the 1930s to the 1970s called Realizing God. And I've honestly forgotten the name of this talk that we're on. Balakrishna suggested it. We're in the middle of it, and my limited knowledge of how to use Kindle, I don't remember the title of this talk. But if anyone does, pipe up. Okay. We'll just go on from where we left off approximately. I'll start here. There is always conflict and chaos in this world. Swami Vivekananda once said, "What is this world but a dog's curly tail? You straighten it today, the next moment it curls again." That is the nature of the world. The idea of millennium is not possible. Millennium being that 1,000 years of peace and benevolence as a condition of life on earth. So the Swami says that's not possible, and he's going to explain why. Suppose there is only light. Can we know what light is without comparing it with darkness? Suppose there is only good. Can we recognize it without evil? Pairs of opposites have to exist in this world. When there is unification, oneness, there is destruction of the world. And the Swami isn't speaking theoretically here, according to the Vedas, and also according to one possibility posited by the physicists of what happens to the universe. Ultimately, the three gunas come into equilibrium. There is no vibration whatsoever. No vibration is, by definition, absolute zero or total entropy. So without the opposites that are created by Maya, by the gunas, there is no manifestation. There is no world. So that's what the Swami means. When there is unification, oneness, there is destruction of the world. But in the midst of the pairs of opposites, we must learn to find peace and harmony within each one of us in our own individual lives. And of course, this is the goal and aim of spiritual practice. That's exactly what he's pointing to. We must learn to find peace and harmony within each one of us in our own individual lives. Are you at peace within yourself? Is there not a conflict going on? This is human nature. But That does not mean that it has to exist continuously. Each one of us has to be turned into the divine, because that is our true nature. Notice the word continuously. It does not mean it has to exist continuously. We begin by interrupting it by some spiritual practice, this conflict going on, this eternal argument among the koshas about how to be in life and this sense of separation. We end it briefly as we practice contemplation, concentration, and meditation. And so that breaks the continuously, the continuity. Over time, we learn to extend that period in which there is no sense of conflict or and in that time, the world is destroyed. That is to say, Swami Vivekananda in his preface to Raja Yoga says, when there are no vrittis, no vibrations in the mind stuff, chitta, when there are no vrittis in the chitta, your universe disappears. Not the universe we share, but your participation in it. And so that's what's meant by continuously. You can break that continuity and disappear from this universe. Disappear, your universe ends. That doesn't mean you don't return to the body, sometimes after just a few moments. That's concentration. But when you learn to extend that, that's meditation. And when you learn to extend even that, that then becomes samadhi. And that is being turned into the divine, because that is our true nature. That is what is behind the appearance of the opposites and the seeming eternal conflict. So the word continuously is very important in this sentence. Each of us has to be turned into the divine, because that is our true nature. And turning yourself into the divine is the purpose, the aim of spiritual practice. It's not to make you a good person. Yes, you will become a good person as a result of doing this, but that's incidental. That's not the goal. It's not an ethical pursuit. It's the pursuit of your true nature and escape from the pairs of opposites, escape from Maya, this universe as we ordinarily experience it. You become a good person in that simply because you are radiating peace and harmony. That is, you're in contact and in your awareness, in your moment-to-moment awareness, whether it's full or partial, you're aware of your true original nature, of your divine nature. Christ and Buddha are steps to be attained by each individual. I think you've heard me tell the story that Swami Swahananda stopped me one time. We were walking and I was discussing a talk to be given on Christ. And he said, we are each called upon to be a Christ. We are each called to be a Christ. Christhood is not limited to Jesus. Buddhahood is not limited to Buddha. That Christhood or that Buddhahood is your true nature. Take the idea of evolution. In evolution, there is nothing added. That does not mean it has to exist continuously. I'm sorry, that didn't seem to make sense. So I'm looking at, take the idea of evolution. In evolution, there is nothing added. But what is, I see, I somehow skipped a page. But what is already involved becomes evolved. In other words, what is already in us becomes apparent, becomes known. In the highest evolution is a Christ, a Buddha. It is involved. It is already there, present in every one of us. When Swamiji was in this country, by that he means the US, when Swamiji was in this country, the well-known atheist Ingersoll told him, if I had been God, I'd have created health contagious instead of disease. Now that's a reasonable remark, isn't it? I mean, Ingersoll was a lovely little thinker, so to speak. If I had been God, I'd have created health contagious instead of disease. Swami Vivekananda replied, don't you know that health is also contagious? Ponder that. Health is also contagious. If you are with healthy people, you are more likely to be healthy. If you are with sick people, you are more likely to be sick because of this contagion. Peace is contagious. That is why there is stress on associating with holy people, so that you pick up their holiness. And remember, and anyone who practices medicine or therapy will tell you, there is no line of demarcation between your spiritual nature, your psychic nature, your physical nature. It's one continuum, it's one being. So if you are holy, you're likely to be healthier. If you're, and you're likely to be more psychically balanced. Let me quote to you from the Beatitudes. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I shall give you an illustration from the life of my master. One time in our organization in Benares, it was a huge organization, 40 or 50 young men living together. They had established what's called a sevashrama, a place to offer medical help, both medicine and medicines themselves and medical treatment. They'd established this sevashrama. It still exists there. I stayed there in 1999. It was a lovely place. One time in our organization in Benares, it was a huge organization, 40 or 50 young men living together, cliques were formed. And so disturbances arose. The general secretary went there to inquire and found the guilty ones. He wrote my master, Swami Brahmananda, he wrote my master, who was then the president, that these are the guilty ones. If we expel them, perhaps there will be peace. The president said, don't do anything, I am coming. He did not go to find out who was guilty and who was not. He simply gave this one order. I want all you boys to come and meditate with me every day. And it was at 4:30 in the morning. So they all had to break their pattern. If they weren't getting up at 4:30 in the morning, they had to break their pattern, make the pattern of coming and sitting with Swami Brahmananda. I want all you boys to come and meditate with me every day. So they came and they would sit and meditate every day for a month. He, Brahmananda, didn't say a word about the fights or quarrels, and after a month he left. There was complete peace and harmony, no more trouble. Notice, no rules, no arguing, no expulsions, just the presence of peace, love, and harmony. embodied in Swami Brahmananda, brought the situation to there was complete peace and harmony, no more trouble. You see, there really are peacemakers. If there were a few dozen such souls in one age, this world would be blessed. And it is our plan that each one of you realize, notice the Swami says, and it is our plan. He's speaking to a temple full of people who are more of them than not were his followers. And it is our plan that each one of you realize that peace within yourself and spread that peace, be peacemakers. Now, does that mean that those of us who are gathered here in this electronic way this morning cannot share in that? No, it does not. If we apply ourselves to that desire, as Christ said, ask and ye shall receive. If you wish to be part of that, just let that be the yearning of your heart. And then just keep it up. Don't, it's not one day, not 1 week, not 1 month, just keep it up. And you will be transformed. Holiness itself, as Krishna says, holiness itself shall transform you. When I was a little boy, I read these words, which are indelibly impressed upon my mind. Wanted reformers, not of others, but of themselves. I read these words, the Swami says, which are indelibly impressed on my mind. Wanted reformers, not of others, but of themselves. We think if we can reform everybody else to our way of thinking, to our way of life, to our way of being, belief, then there will be peace on earth. Suppose it were so and we all believed the same way. We all lived the same way. We all thought the same way. It would be like looking at Egyptian mummies. Lifeless. No, there has to be this diversity, and there has to be the dark as well as the light. But for each of us, we won't think the same way. We won't live the same way. We won't believe the same way, even though we are manifesting that peace, love, and harmony. We are individuals, and we will find our own very creative ways of expressing it. And that's one of the wonders. You are inherently far more creative than most of us know. Most of us are not aware of the tremendous creativity that is just behind this distraction that we think of as our mind and our way of being. It is the creativity of the universal being itself that manifested the universe. That same creativity is ready to burst forth from you as you apply yourself to subduing the ignorance, the distraction. The reformation has to come within yourself. You have to find peace and harmony and love within yourself. In the words of one of the great thinkers of the West, Ralph Waldo Emerson, there are two laws discrete, not reconciled, the law for man and the law for things. The last builds town and fleet and runs wild and doth the man unking. There are two laws discrete, not reconciled, the law for man and the law for things. The last builds town and fleet and runs wild and doth the man unking. In other words, take away from you your birthright. How true it is. We build towns and fleets in order to have harmony and peace, and the result is that we have death And the result is that we dethrone ourselves, as it were, remove ourselves from our birthright as princes of the realm. There is a beautiful story in one of the Vedanta books. 10 friends swam across a river that was flooded. When they got to the other shore, they wanted to be sure that all of them had arrived safely. So they began to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everybody counted to 9. The 10th was missing. So they began to weep and wail that they had lost a friend. A stranger passed by and inquired why they were weeping and wailing. Oh, there were 10 of us as we swam across. One of us has been drowned. We're only 9 now. The stranger counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You are the 10th. You see, each one forgot to count himself. And that is the situation with us. There is a mine of bliss within, and we have forgotten. So the search has to be turned within. And this is why the Upanishads say that until that turn within is successful, there is no peace. And for those whose turn within is successful, there is peace. And the Upanishad says, to none else, to none else, to none else. So it is that turn inward, that seeking of the truth and peace and harmony and love within that's where we'll find it and nowhere else. Of course, we can't blame anybody because our senses have been created outgoing. You see, the body is known as the city of Brahman, the city of God. And there are gates, senses, through which the mind goes out. But there are some wise ones who control and turn their gaze within themselves and find that the King of Kings, and find that King of Kings dwelling there. Now, when Swami Prabhavananda uses King of Kings in that Christian sense, it's not careless. Christ is that. Christ has not gone anywhere. For those who are Christian, and even for those who are not, they will find that shining one within, and that is the King of Kings. So it appeared 2,100 years ago under the name of Jesus. But the Christ is eternal, imperishable, and is the King of Kings. They turn their gaze within themselves and find that King of Kings dwelling there. We weep and wail for no reason. We find disharmony and discord for no reason. It is all our own doing. Not because we're bad people, but because our attention is turned outward and we're distracted from the reality. And so in that distraction and in our confusion, we think, I have to take care of number one. I have to be selfish. I have to, all of these things that lead to disharmony, discord, and unpleasantness. No, it's only when we turn within that we see, oh, there's nothing to fear. I don't have to protect myself. Of course, you can't be a doormat for aggressive people. That's not what's meant by that. But you can say to others, this far and no farther, and have that be that. You don't have to get into any kind of contest or ugliness with them. We find disharmony and discord for no reason. It is all our own doing. The first and foremost The first and most important thing in trying to find that divinity within ourselves, in whom there is peace, in whom there is infinite and abiding happiness, is to understand that there is no happiness in the finite, that in the infinite alone is happiness. The infinite is the source of all happiness. We can't possibly understand the word infinite. A finite mind cannot understand the word infinite. So what we do is we take the word of those who have gone beyond and have wed themselves. Their awareness has become married to their consciousness. And so they have wed themselves to the infinite. It means that their awareness is immersed in that infinite. And because it's infinite, it's inexpressible in finite terms. So they can only tell you afterwards that the infinite is the source of all happiness. They can't describe to you precisely why that's so, but they know it is so. They have realized it. In order to reach that, the first and foremost thing is discrimination. Each of us must learn to discriminate between that which is eternal and that which is not eternal. You seek pleasure and happiness and peace in the outside world. You get it, and when there is satisfaction of a particular desire, you're at peace with yourself, but only for the moment. It doesn't last. Why? Because abiding peace is in realizing that which is eternal. Now, this is an intellectual process, yes. We can say this is this and that is that. But the real discovery comes when you turn within and you recognize it at the level of the heart or even higher. It's a recognition of a truth that has always existed within you. So this discrimination is only an intellectual process in that you say, what deserves my attention? Do the fleeting, passing things deserve my attention? Or do these great truths that I've been taught and their manifestation, is that what deserves my attention? And so instead of spending time on the finite and ephemeral, you begin to spend more and more time in the presence of that internal reality. And that's spiritual practice. Okay, we've come to the halfway point. It's always good, I think, because we've covered so much territory, to stop and see if there are any questions or concerns or comments that you want to make. This is what we mean by studying together the art of spirituality. So anything that you have to say or ask, please do. This is a good time to do it, and then we'll go on. But let's have some discussion of what we've covered so far. What does it mean to you to turn within? Where do you find the opportunity? How do you do it? What difficulties do you encounter? All these things are embedded in what we've just read and discussed. Everybody's satisfied with what?
Brother, this is Haima.
Yes, Haima.
I have a comment to make. Wayne Dyer, I'm sure you know him. He's a famous psychologist. he said that our world is dichotomous except silence. You cannot break silence. If you break it, only you find more silence. That's what he usually says in his tapes and his teachings, and so I truly believe in that.
Very beautiful. Yes, silence is Purna. Silence. You know that Purna chant, Purnamadam, Purna, all that. And it says you subdivide the full, the complete. It's still full and complete.
And you get the more silence. That's about it.
That's it. Beautiful. Yes, silence. You cannot. Silence is not binary. Is not dualistic. Very nice, Haima. Thank you.
Yeah, I also have a motto I created myself a few years ago when I started practicing with clients. I said to myself, my happiness doesn't come from so-and-so saying this to me, so-and-so doing this to me. My happiness is within myself, and it comes from within me.
Absolutely. People can say something to us that will cause that happiness to arise, but it does not come from them. Yes. It comes from within, and it's like they've lit a candle. Yes. By what they've said. Very well said.
Thank you. That's all.
Nice motto. Yes, thank you, Haima. Anyone else?
Yeah, I love what Haima said, and I do agree about silence being, one wholeness and cannot be split. And also to keep giving us the positive messages, but that alone is not always successful because again, it's at the mind level. I guess the dog's tail. So that's why I guess the spiritual practice becomes more relevant when I guess beyond just telling, at least for myself, just telling myself these things about, happiness lies within. I think getting some tool like the meditation or japa or satsang, I find more helpful.
Yes, dear. This is why we have to take the mind and seat it within the heart. We have to take the things of the mind, the japa, the this and that, we bring it to the heart, because there is the seat of our divinity within us. And when we bring the mind and its awareness to the heart through our spiritual practice, then we discover what is meant by happiness is within. Very good.
Brother Shankara?
Yes.
This is Vimla.
Yes, Vimla.
The most challenging thing is to find happiness within. The biggest challenge is that our life is so intertwined. On the one hand, you have to relate to be able to empathize and arouse the compassion, to get angry, to fight, to find, and at the same time, so distant yourself that you are a nucleus within yourself, so complete. That is where my challenge goes.
And how do you resolve the challenge, Vimla?
I swing between one and the other.
Between please give us the two again. When you mean one and the other, which?
It's like, say, if my child is in tremendous pain, in tremendous problem, I cannot distance myself to a point to find full peace within me. When things are okay, it is easy to withdraw that and look for that completeness in myself. But when the waters around me are so ruffled, then it's very hard. Especially, you know, as I'm saying, when it comes to pain, agony, challenges, losses.
Yes. All of that is there.
And when more so when you know you cannot do anything. Than to see and suffer and see somebody who is more precious to you than your own life, and be able to distance myself and find a peaceful corner in me.
No, that's not the answer, Vimala, to retreat into a peaceful corner within yourself. When we encounter, as you said, these entanglements, what is Krishna's absolute, it's as close to a command as he comes in the entire Gita. In the third chapter, please read the second and third chapters again, Vimala, of the Gita. Sri Krishna says, offer it all to me. Don't try to understand. It's beyond our understanding. Offer it all to him or her if your Ishtadevata is the divine feminine. Offer it, and not once, repeatedly, day after day after day after day. Offer this pain, this anguish, offer it along with everything else. It's the only refuge. We cannot, as you said, when there's nothing to be done, we have to offer our own pain and anguish, our own sense of helplessness and feeling of inadequacy, all of these things that arise in our minds when we're confronted with the kind of situation that you talked about. We offer the anguish of the person with whom we are entwined, and we offer their pain and suffering and sorrow and our own. All I can say is that the experience of many over the years that I have been observing others is that this does work. We cannot understand the karma of others. We cannot understand our own karma, let alone the karma of others. So all we can do is offer it all. And there is peace, particularly when we really are practiced at this. There is peace in putting this where it belongs, giving it to the divine.
Beautiful.
Does that?
Absolutely beautiful. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Also,
I hear your pain. I understand your pain. We've talked about this. So I really encourage you to go back and read chapters 2 and 3 of the Gita, and just ponder over all of the things that Krishna says there about what is real, what is unreal, and what is our true refuge, and what the relief that we can experience from putting things where they belong. Very good. Anything else?
I just have one comment for Vimala and what she mentioned. It is a journey, but it's not a destination. It's a continuous, after going through sufferings, and you finally slowly starts finding that silence as comforting when you do the meditation. It's a journey, not a destination. Just want to add to that what I commented on.
Thank you, Haima.
It's never a destination. Right. Thank you.
No. How can there be an end? How can there be a destination within the infinite? Even the most highly elevated souls are still evolving into their infinitude.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, Swami.
isn't there also a difference between the real silence within the heart versus just verbal silence? For example, if there is some kind of argument or something going on and we just choose to remain silent, it may help not to escalate that, but one has to be careful that the resentments are not building up because, you know.
Oh, well, this is what I meant about you must not be a doormat for others. Yes, sometimes the best response is no response to someone who's trying to provoke you. Sometimes the best response is, in your own words and as befits the situation, this far and no farther. And so you set your boundaries and you make yourself plain, make yourself clear that you will not be imposed on by them and you will not allow them to take a superior attitude and offend your dignity. And then don't argue with them about it. That's just how it is. They'll want to contest with you about it. They'll have 1,000 ways of elaborating the situation. Don't play. It takes two to dance in that way. It's two to tango, so to speak. So just say your piece and then say, I've said my piece. And refuse to dance with them further. It's hard. It's hard. Some people are very assertive and aggressive. And they will take advantage of you if we allow them.
And to add to that, there is power in just being able to walk away.
Oh,
yeah.
Very well said, Ramadas.
I had
give us an example.
Well, Haima had mentioned finding people who you say something bad to them and their whole day is ruined. I used to think of it as misfortune. Now I think of it as a karma to live with a narcissist who craved constant adulation and praise. And if she didn't get it, she would pick a fight with you and even fly into a rage sometimes. And the two things struck me that, craving that constant adulation and praise, and if you don't get it, getting really upset. If that person had taken a mantra, that could help. I think that could actually help, even in that extreme stage of psychosis. Because it is a psychotic state of mind, it really is. But two, it was the times where I walked away that actually was, hey, because they'll like you said, they'll find 1,000 different ways to twist the truth and pick fights with you. And you just got to end it. Say, I'm not going to fight, I'm not going to argue, I'm walking. You can enjoy all by yourself. I'm
not going to dance. I'm not going to dance with you.
Not going to dance. That's the way to do it.
Very well said, Ramadas. Very well said. Some people you just have to say, I'm sorry.
And that unfortunately includes close family members. I know that's a lot tougher, but that's the reality.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, or coworkers sometimes as well. You got to work with that person, see them. And
as Sri Ramakrishna said, sometimes you have to look on your family members as a nest of vipers.
Yeah.
Anything else? This has been very, very good. This is exactly why we're here, to let these things that we hear stimulate how we actually make them work for us in our lives.
I have a good example, Brother Shankara, if you want me to tell you this example.
Yes.
Okay. When I was in graduate school, I was just about to graduate in 2 semesters, my master's degree in family therapy. And we were all chatting. Room was not open. We were going into the class and we were all outside, all of my classmates. I'm one of the oldest, of course. I went back to college very late in the 50s and 60s. Actually, I was 61 years old and the rest of the students are like 22, somewhere around 55, maybe 1 or 2 of my age. So we were talking and laughing and suddenly until the door opens. The door wasn't open because it wasn't time yet. They don't open the door until 5 minutes before. All of us were chatting. Suddenly one of my classmates said, with a nice jovial environment, he said, "Shut up," to me. And I was like, what did I do? Mr. K, did I say something to you? I was stunned. And everybody was stunned. All of a sudden, all my classmates, why is he saying this to you? There's nothing happened here. We're all laughing and jovially enjoying the environment. And then I just stayed quiet and calm. And then suddenly the door opens and we all went inside. And I just said, did I say something wrong? All I said was that, and then I walked into the class. In the middle of that, we get a break, 5-minute break in the middle of the class, 1.5 hour class. And he came to me, sat next to me, and he apologized to me 10 times. I'm so, so sorry. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I insulted you. I said, that's okay, Mr. K. I didn't take it into my skin. I knew I did nothing wrong with you. I just thought maybe something is bothering you. I don't know why. But that's all right. It's okay. It's okay. And then he apologized 10, 15 times and then went back to his seat. That was my experience. If you just stay silent, you are pure, you didn't do anything wrong in your heart. And he didn't have any reason that day. But I know he envied me for a bit in the class, but I always liked him. So as part of my classmates. So that's one of my experiences.
Well, that's a very good example of not engaging, not fighting with someone, and letting them come to their senses.
Yes, and then we met every now and then. We all classmates meet at a restaurant. We used to last year when I met. The first thing he came and talked to me. He sat next to me and he asked me how I'm doing. And we were just like good classmates again. I have never held anything against him. That was the best thing that ever happened. One of the experiences like that. People will insult you. People will hurt you, exploit you. But we don't have to take it into underneath our skin sometimes. You have to really be very strong. And it's a journey too. That doesn't come overnight. It takes a long, long, long type of experiences over time.
Yes.
That's Thank you for letting me share that.
Well, thank you for sharing it. Okay, we've spent 20 minutes very productively. Shall I read on a little bit? All right. Plato defined love as love for the whole. That means love for the infinite. If you love a part, you become frustrated. You have to direct your love toward that which is infinite. In the book of Job, we read, "Acquaint thyself with him, that is God, and be at peace. Thereby good shall come unto you." If we believe in dogmas and doctrines and follow certain rituals, will that peace come to us? Whatever name you may give makes no difference, but that reality has to be realized. It is an experience within one's own self. A vision of God is not enough. You can see God, yes, but you have to acquaint yourself with him. You have to talk with him. You have to attain your union with him. That is the fact of religion. In this present age, Sri Ramakrishna demonstrated this by his life. Sri Ramakrishna demonstrated by his life that no matter what religion you belong, that no matter to what religion you belong, if you follow the path, you will reach that ultimate reality. Now let's go back to this business that Plato talked about, because we've gone from that to the reality. When Plato said that love is love for the whole, this is exactly the same thing that Yajnavalkya was talking about in the Great Forest Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In talking to Maitri, she said, give me the highest teachings. He's offered her wealth, and she says, this wealth won't do me any good, will it? He says, no. She says, well, give me something that will do me good. And he says, when a husband loves a wife, it is not for the sake of the wife, but for the sake of the self. This is the whole. This is the infinite that Plato is talking about. This is the reality that we have to discover and become, so to speak, conversant with. Not everyone, we mustn't feel guilty if we don't find ourselves in intimate conversation with God. There are many ways of experiencing the divine. Be content that you will find your own way, but just keeping in mind that whatever attracts you, whatever you're drawn to, Yajnavalkya goes on to say, it is not for the husband that the wife loves the husband, but for the sake of the self. It is not for the sake of the husband that the wife loves the husband, but for the sake of the self. And then he goes on and he lists a long, long, long list. You know, this is a technique within these scriptures to convince us that we're talking about everything. So it is not for the sake of the house that you love the house. It is for the sake of the self. Does that mean, what does that mean? That the house is the self? Yes. Sri Ramakrishna himself saw it. Everything is made of the self, is made of consciousness. So when we have this attraction to anything, and we will be attracted to many different things, let's just keep in mind, it is for the sake of the self that I am drawn to this. Something in this makes the self more evident to me than it is in other things. And having discovered the self within some things, it becomes easier and easier to discover the self in the others. This is what Plato meant by the whole, what the Swami means by the infinite, and by what he means by the word reality. Sri Ramakrishna demonstrated no matter what religion you belong to, if you follow the path, you will reach the ultimate reality. You will discover the self that is at the heart of that. But we can keep this at the forefront of our minds. Whatever I am drawn to, it is for the sake of the self. And so it makes it easier to divinize everything in your life, because you're saying, the reason I'm drawn to this, the reason I wish to involve myself with this, is for the sake of the self. The self is more evident, self-evident in this than it is in other things. So I'm drawn to that. And that's an experience, isn't it? And so the Swami says, belief does not help you, as contrasted with experience. Belief does not help you. Dogmas do not help you. Of course not. No one can, if I were to say what I just said to you dogmatically, that this is the only way that there is to do this, and you have to do this, and there's only one way to do it, and so on and so forth, would that be of any use to you? No. The more intelligent and sophisticated you were and you're thinking about these things, the more you would reject that immediately. No, it is. Dogmas won't help you. Belief is good, but it's not the same as experience. Why is there so much confusion in churches of today? They insist upon formulas, doctrines, dogmas. Why don't they teach how to find God? That spirit is forgotten. As the saying goes, in our country, there were fruits in the basket, and when the fruits are gone, the fight. There were fruits in the basket, and when the fruits are gone, they fight over the basket. Where is the world? In your own mind. And this is something for us to really keep in mind. Where is the world? In your own mind. And so if you're able to change the way you see, if you're able to change your mind, your world changes. Where is the world? In your own mind. There is a beautiful truth taught by the great seer philosopher Shankara. He asks this question: by whom is the world conquered? And the answer he himself gives is, by him who has conquered his own mind. That is the conquest that we have to achieve. There are things within yourself which have to be overcome. Then only will you find the world also is overcome. So we'll leave it there. There are things within yourself that have to be overcome. Then only will you find that and how do you identify these things that have to be overcome? As you try to sit and do your spiritual practice, your mantra, your visualization, whatever it is, these are the things that interrupt you. These are the things that repeatedly assert themselves. These are the things that come to you in a quiet moment. Suddenly some memory or some projection that you have, a what if, a recurrent what if will come back. These are the things that have to be overcome. And we do this by discrimination. Do they meet the test of deserving my attention or not? So we'll leave it, the reading for there. It's just a little afternoon, but we have time for those of you who wish to stay on for comments and questions if you'd like. Anything from anyone?
Hi, Brother Shankara.
Yes, Aaron.
Yes, I just wanted to share a quick poem from St. Francis that I think resonates with today's discussion well. It was easy to love God in all that was beautiful. The lessons of deeper knowledge, though instructed me to embrace God in all things.
Please read that again. That is so beautiful.
It was easy to love God in all that was beautiful. The lessons of deeper knowledge, though instructed me to embrace God in all things.
Yes. And St. Francis came through to that deeper knowledge through years of spiritual practice. He says it's easy to love God in the things that are beautiful. Yes, we can see the self so clearly in those things. Yes, St. Francis is so comprehensive. Thank you, Aaron. That is so relevant, so perfect. Is that interpretation that you found? Is that from Love Poems from God?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Anyone else?
I think my question is sort of going into the same thing again about the self and that quote that he read, that when we are attracted to something, you said that we find that probably there's more of the self in that versus something that we are not attracted to.
Well, not more of the self. There can't be more of the, or less of the self. But we see it more clearly. We see it more easily.
Mm.
We recognize it. Something in it, something of that attracts our attention and holds it. So we see the self more clearly there, not that there's more self there.
Mm.
There can't be more or less self.
Okay. Is there a way to, or is it even possible to contemplate on what it is that's more clear about the self in that which attracts us?
Yes, absolutely. That it again, go to the second chapter of How to Know God by Swami Prabhavananda, the Yoga Sutra, and look at object-oriented concentration. And what happens is you focus. I'm going to summarize, but you need to, if you're going to do this, you need to go and find Patanjali's instructions as given to us by Swami Prabhavananda. It's his translation and interpretation. Object-oriented concentration, what happens is the purpose is for it to unfold itself and reveal itself to us. And so, very good question. And the technique is there. It's called object-oriented concentration. And when you do that, and you follow those instructions, what happens is you do see, this is why this is now, and again, it's an experience, not a thought construct. You experience the reality of the thing that you're concentrating on.
And you said that's in Swami Prabhavananda's translation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra?
Well, it's in chapter 2 of anyone's translation of an interpretation of the Yoga Sutra, but Swami Prabhavananda's is particularly easily understandable to us.
Okay.
He makes it very clear what Patanjali means, because Patanjali is very telegraphic.
Mm.
His instructions are meant to be expounded upon, and so Swami Prabhavananda expounds on. By the way, Shara, hello there. Good to see you. Namaste, dear.
Hi, Brother Shankara. It's good to see you too. When you were talking about the things that continue to arise in our meditation as being the things we need to overcome, I wanted you to say a little bit more about the process of that, because you mentioned like what is worth giving our attention to. That discernment. I prefer the word discernment for myself to discrimination. But I also feel like I need to love on those things. Like I can't push them away, because if I try to push them away, then they arise with more ferocity.
Right.
So what is the kind of technique of discerning and not giving it too much attention, but also not trying to run away from it, because ultimately there's nothing to run away from. It's just
you're absolutely right. There's nothing to run away from, and you can't run away from it anyway, because you are the one containing it. It is your samskaras that are producing it. So what happens is you gaze. You learn to simply gaze on them. When they arise, you simply you don't try to push them away. You simply gaze on them. And the more you do that, the more you see the reality within it. It's a kind of object-oriented concentration. And so you can then understand yourself, why these things, why this became a knotted situation. And you can simply say, you know, this is no longer relevant to me, if indeed it's not. It was relevant at the time. It keeps insisting because there was pain involved, or insult involved, or something happened. But you look at it and you simply say, okay, enough attention has been given to this. And you then withdraw your attention and return it to your spiritual practice. Over time, if you stop watering that particular issue with your attention, as you say, not trying to run away from it or suppress it, you cannot. You simply turn your attention away from it to that which is higher and gives you more satisfaction and more happiness, which is what you truly want. As you slowly and slowly stop watering that other with your attention, it withers and becomes dormant. This is why I say it's always good to read Swami Prabhavananda's translation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which he calls How to Know God, because he describes this in some detail, that these things then become dormant. They don't go away, but they no longer intrude in the way that they did before. I'm really glad you brought that up. We needed to address that directly. Thank you, Cheryl.
That was beautiful. Very, very true. Brother, I was unable to log on Wednesday, just away from the topic, but
I don't know why. There were quite a few people with us, so it wasn't that it wasn't working at all. But so, you know, these things that we think of they're so reliable and so they're not necessarily. Sometimes they just don't.
okay,
so
I will keep trying. No, I just wanted to make
the thing to do, Vimala, if that happens, is restart your computer and then try again. Okay. Restart your computer and try again. Because usually it's something internal to the computer, not to the wider system. But that may not be the case. And I'm very sorry you weren't able to log on.
Perfectly all right. I don't want to miss those. But thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Okay. We'll wind it up then. We'll start next week with Where is God? Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm sorry. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Abir Moiti. O dearly beloved, lead us from thy lesser truth to thy highest truth. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. So thank you all for being with us. This was wonderful. See you next time. The next opportunity for us to gather together this way will be on Tuesday evening. And
Don't we have a class tomorrow, Brother Shankar?
oh, I'm sorry, of course. Because I didn't have to, because I'm not talking, I didn't come to my mind. Of course we have class tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's a talk by Ryan New Collins
Yes.
on Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, a Jnani sage from Mumbai. And Ryan is quite a skilled speaker and a good organizer of information. So please join us if you can tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. The link is in everything that you have access to. The Facebook page, the website, and of course, if you receive the newsletter, it comes in that as well. So thank you, Haima, for reminding me and moving me off being so self-centered.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Very nice
Well,
today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So good to see you.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
See you all either tomorrow morning or Tuesday or whenever we can get together. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga Durga Durga.